It's December again, and in the middle of what feels like a long crisis for the American story, this month doesn't just bring lights and tradition. It brings a sense that something's tipping, a shift in the wind, a deep breath before something breaks. In earlier American crisis eras, the Revolution, the Civil War, the Great Depression, and World War II, December brought turning points. The Boston Tea Party in 1773, South Carolina's break from the Union in 1860, the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. Each helped push the country out of argument and into action, out of denial and into confrontation. The kind of shifts you don't always see until later, when you realize, oh, everything changed. And now, here we are, December 2025, in another moment where fault lines are moving. This time, it's not just one pressure point. It's rumors of war, it's job loss, it's legal institutions bending, and behind it all, a kind of public exhaustion with watching so much change and still feeling powerless. Let's begin offshore, because American warships are in the Caribbean. Thousands of U.S. personnel are deployed near Venezuela, and officials are describing a new phase of operations. They're moving hardware, floating options, and expanding missions against alleged drug targets. The headlines don't call it an invasion, but they didn't always use that word in 1846 either, when tensions along the border turned into war with Mexico. Sometimes the pivot happens before the name catches up. And there are echoes, too, of December 1860. Back then, South Carolina voted to secede. Just one state, and many hoped it would end there. But once a break begins, momentum has a way of taking over. This December, we may be close to another threshold. If land operations begin, even limited ones, a shadow war could become something much harder to unwind. And then there are the allegations that during a September strike, U.S. forces may have been ordered to fire on survivors. It's not just a rumor. Newsrooms have reported it, and military lawyers are reviewing it, and legal experts are using words like war crime. And some in Congress are demanding hearings. Others are defending the strikes as lawful, necessary force. It's a familiar pattern in crisis moments. A fight over what's justified, what's legal, what's moral, and whether the public still has a say in the matter. In 1859, they hanged John Brown in December. And to many, he was a criminal. To others, a martyr. But either way, he forced the country to look at what it had tried to avoid. And the question now is whether we're being forced to look again. And meanwhile, the economy is sending up its own flares. In December 1930, a major New York bank collapsed. Not the cause of the Great Depression, but a signal that the scaffolding was giving way. This time, it's different, but familiar. Tech companies are laying off workers, retail forecasts are pretty soft, and some economists warn we're on the edge of a jobs cliff. It's not a collapse, maybe, but it's a warning. And while the Fed prepares for its December meeting, investors want certainty. But everyday Americans want something else. A sense that someone sees what they are carrying. That help doesn't always mean waiting for the markets to stabilize first. There's another deadline approaching this month, one that reaches into the shadows. On or around December 19th, the Justice Department is expected to begin releasing files tied to Jeffrey Epstein's criminal networks. These are thousands of pages, searchable archives, and a list provided to Congress naming government officials and politically exposed persons who appear in those documents. That's not speculation. That's the law that was passed last month, and now the clock is ticking. But already, the DOJ is talking about redactions, about ongoing investigations, about protecting survivors' privacy. All of that matters, but so does what the public deserves to know. And in crisis eras, the stakes of transparency are different. Because this isn't just about one man and his crimes. It's about who gets protected and who doesn't. Who's allowed to hide and who's forced to carry the weight. We've been here before, too, in a way. In December 1865, the country ratified the 13th Amendment. It ended slavery on paper and began the long, painful birth of something new. In December 1791, the Bill of Rights was ratified, not because power is generous, but because people demanded limits and clarity and protection from the state they had just created. And now this December, the question of power is back. The Supreme Court is hearing a case that could upend how presidents interact with independent agencies. If they overturn precedent, a president could fire the heads of watchdog agencies at will. Think the FTC, the FEC, the people meant to hold government and corporations in some form of check. At the same time, Congress is facing pressure to investigate the use of force abroad, to ask who's giving the orders and what legal boundaries are being crossed. When these battles happen at once, over war and over secrecy, over institutional control, it's not just politics. It's a test of the civic spine. So here we are, all of us together, at another December. And I wonder whether it will mark a beginning, one of those dark beginnings that feels like strength, but leaves accountability behind. Or whether we still have it in us to begin again in a different direction, to ask what this season might reveal, what truths might finally come forward, and what kind of future we want to meet the new year with. Because every fourth turning has its December. Sometimes the month of rupture. The rapture happened a few months ago, right? Sometimes December is a month of rupture, is what I'm saying. Sometimes it's a month of reckoning. And every so often, the month someone chooses to see things clearly and acts before it's too late. So, if you've not been raptured, I'll leave you with this. What's being decided while we sleep? What stories will be told about this December? And what part of it is still ours to shape? Do we still have a stake in this whole thing? And before we go, if you enjoy conversations like this, topics like this, thinking about these things, December 10th and 11th, I'm hosting what I call Zoom salons. These are small groups of 8 to 12 folks. We just meet on Zoom, and we go 30 minutes or longer if people want to go, but we go at least 30 minutes on a topic. You can find the info on December's topics and register to save your spot at the link that I'll put here on screen, but it's my website, dancoyle.com/Zoom salons. You can put a hyphen in between Zoom and salons. And we had one of these in November, and it was really enjoyable. And so I think if you'd want to pop on and give it a shot, you really might enjoy it and meet some like-minded folks, or at least folks who are willing and able to have these types of discussions themselves. And we'll continue to do these month over month as long as they're interesting to people. So if you can't make this one, that's okay. And as far as I know, at the time of filming this, there are 4 spots left. So I should have maybe front-loaded that. But bearing the lead here, there are 4 spots left. And so head on over there to reserve your spot without delay if you're interested. All right. I'll see you in the next one.